The following podcast is a production of the network. Check us out on bicbp-radio.com.
319! 399! Hut! 33!
Yeah, spot.
Blue 58! Blue 58!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the 2 Point Conversation, football talk for fans, by fans, right here on the network at bicbp-radio.com. My name is Matt Johnson, your host, and we are introducing a brand new, fun episode theme for the off-season today. And with a new theme, we have a new set of there are co-hosts that have been around, but we're going to be mixing and matching certain individuals. First and foremost, in studio with myself, one of our newer co-hosts, Mr. Jacob Miller. Jacob, how you doing, buddy?
What up, man? Excited for the new topic.
Yeah,
quote unquote. Yeah,
it's gonna be fun. It's gotta be fun. We're gonna make it work. We're gonna make it work. And it's last year we kind of like mailed it in with one of our our off-season ones. This year I feel like okay, there's a lot of substance to this. So I hope people do appreciate it as much as I do.
No mailing it in while I'm here, bro.
No.
We're going for it.
I like your spirit. This is why I brought you aboard. And, of course, he's now pulling double duty on the show. I said duty. Our NFL history co-host, Andrew Lenz. Andrew, welcome. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing wonderful. Get to do some top 10 lists of everything. I know we've shied away from the NFL history episodes of doing lists, so
we did, because they'd always had to go way longer than we want them to be.
Yes. And minimum research.
Yeah, that's what
I love doing research, but minimum research. It's from the heart.
This one is relatively thoughtless, and Jacob was just telling us before we went on air about how like you start to overthink it a little bit. You're like, oh. Uh-oh. Do I put this person here? Do I put that person there?
Listen, man, I've had a really easy life. So when things like this come along and really throw a pebble in my path, it messed with me for a week thinking about this stuff.
I believe it. No, I was, a lot of back and forth in this, and that's the fun in it. So to our listeners, this new show, new game that we're going to be playing, kind of a game throughout the rest of the off season, is called List and 10. And what myself, Jake, Andrew, and maybe occasionally a guest. I don't know. We're going to see how the time format goes, but we're just going to be picking themes and talking about our top 10s.
And then we should let the listeners vote on the top 10.
Who has the best one?
Yeah, who has the best one?
Oh, I lose those. No voting.
Andrew's not good at those. Andrew's not good at those.
I lose to my kids. I lose in the draft game. I'm just a big giant loser now.
He's got kids, folks. He's got kids.
Andrew likes to say people that most newer people have never heard of, and it usually hurts him. But I think for some of these lists, these themes, I definitely think that's an appropriate idea. But like my logic behind it was this. All right. Back in the day, back when I used to wrestle in high school and travel on the road a lot, there's a lot of time to be passed. All right, you're on school buses, you're packed in cars, and back then I didn't have a smartphone. I had an iPod, but I didn't have 24-hour access and all that fun stuff. So what I did to pass the time was either myself or with a friend. I'd just be like, let's make a list. It's honestly a very fun way to pass the time. And I hope, I've done it many times on car trips. I even host a show. This theme, List and 10, is based off another podcast that I host, Eat, Sleep, List. It's not going to be as crazy from a production standpoint, but the idea is there. There's a lot of things to make a list of. The NFL Network used to do their top 10s and all that stuff, and I think they still do, but they're very good television that are pretty much timeless. So we're going to do that here with List and 10. So,
since how you brought it up, I want to put you on the spot really quick and just ask you a really quick question.
What's up?
Were you one of the guys who, like, after school with your buddies, like you said, you did lists. Did you go through like old yearbooks and be like, these are the people I liked, these are the people I didn't like? Because I was totally one of those.
I didn't have friends in high school.
Oh, well, so I really put you on the spot then. Well, did you do it alone?
I may or may not have, yeah. I would. I'd go peek and be like, oh.
See, now I have next week's topic. Let's bring our old yearbooks in.
Yeah, right.
Just roll through it.
Oh, this person would have looked like a
I don't even
good
think I
football
could
player.
find
Yeah,
mine.
I know. I think a couple of mine are in this office space. But regardless, before we get into our list, we want to give some love to our sponsor for our Wednesday episodes, our good friend Benny Lagrasso at Lagrasso Printing and Graphics. Benny does insane, really good work with T-shirts, making T-shirts in a very timely fashion. Guy's a hustler, all right, and we're very proud to be associated with him. So if you want to support Benny, he has a Facebook page, Lagrasso, LOGRASSO, Printing and Graphics. You can email him at lagrassoprinting@gmail.com. And he also has a website, Buy Buffalo, BUY Buffalo.com. He's associated with that. So go support him. And again, if it's out of reach, if he doesn't do ship, whatever, you can't get a hold of him, go and find your local mom and pop embroidery place and go and support their business, as we encourage you to do with all of our localized sponsors. So, all right, you guys ready to make a list?
Let's do it.
All right, everybody.
Yeah.
This is list in 10. This is a personal, probably one of the more personal ones that we'll ever do, but myself, Andrew, and Jake are going to list our top 10 favorite players in NFL history. All right. Well, and we obviously encourage you all, the listeners, to make it as you go. And don't be afraid to tell us too. We have a Facebook page. We post these episodes when they drop. We'd love to know yours. Seriously. So since I guess I kind of picked this debut topic, I'm going to start us off, and we're going to start off real spicy, all right?
Ooh.
Real spicy. I can guarantee that nobody in the world has this man on the list.
Oh, I hope I do.
All right, so my number 10 is a guy who I fell in love with over the last 5 years because of his attitude, all right? His attitude towards life, the game of football. You just don't care, all right? My number 10, I'm going to go with Smokin' Jay Cutler. And I know people are going to be like, that's a terrible for number 10. How are you going to start off a new show and list Jay Cutler? All right. I'm more of a fan of Jay Cutler, the human being. His Wildcat offense when he was with the Miami Dolphins, one of the best quarterbacks in Miami Dolphins history. Hey, Andrew. His Wildcat play where he stood there with his hips on his side, I'm just like, this is the guy. This is the guy. When he got signed to Miami, I bought a Miami Dolphins Jay Cutler jersey. I went to go see him. I just love his don't give a crap attitude. Tons of legendary stories about him. So Jay Cutler is my number 10. It's a personal one. I think he does get some harsh criticism. I think he has a pretty good cannon. He was on some really bad teams and expected to do quite a bit, but that's just me. I think if Jay Cutler had a nice better supporting cast throughout his career, could have been something.
I can't believe you have him that low on your list.
I know.
I was expecting him in the top 3 for you.
I had to keep it real. I had a couple options at number 10, but Jake, who is your number 10?
Well, I'll probably get some flack for this one.
That's good.
But yeah, which is the right thing, right? A little bit of a homer pick. Didn't want to put him too high on the list, but I had to throw him in there because this is, like Andrew said in the beginning, it's got to come from the heart. Josh Allen. I'm throwing Josh Allen in. I know he hasn't been around very long, and I didn't want to put a bunch of Bills players on my lists, but Josh Allen to me, man, it's been so long since it's been fun to watch the Buffalo Bills. And yeah, sometimes he goes out there and he throws 4 picks. You never know. He sometimes looks like Nathan Peterman. He's kind of gotten rid of that as of late. But man, is it fun to just watch the Bills play now, win or lose. You don't know what that kid's going to do. He is an absolute baller. And that's something that I'm sure, as you'll kind of see as my list progresses, I really appreciate. I picked guys that I just love to watch them play.
Yeah.
And Josh Allen's out there playing backyard football, which is most of my football career, backyard football, and I just love to see it.
He's playing at a very high level. I like that pick. I'm glad you brought that up. I expected some homerism, respectfully. Like, I understand there's definitely going to be some homerism on my part, too.
Sure.
But I'm glad you brought up Josh Allen because he is actually really, really fun to watch.
He's the only Buffalo Bill on my list. So
okay.
And I have one other former Bill, but that's it. I kept it pretty clean.
I respect it. Andrew, you're number 10.
My list is going to shock and awe.
You're all Dolphins, aren't you?
Yeah. Did you riddle us with Miami Dolphins players?
No. Actually, my number 10 is Fred Smirless. Now, did I watch a lot of Fred Smirless growing up? No. But what Fred Smirless did was my very first Bills game in 1988. My brother and my dad and we waited by Bills player entrance trying to get autographs. I'm a little 5-6-year-old boy. Giants among men, very first Bills game. Fred Smirless took my little crappy notebook that my dad used for work, signed his autograph, and sat down with me and my brother for probably a good 10 to 15 minutes and talked to us.
Wow.
Do I remember what we talked about? No. But the fact that this man took time out of his day to get into the tunnel and sit down and talk to me and my brother was absolutely amazing. And I still hold that near and dear to my heart. So that's why Fred Smirless, I had to put him in my top 10 because of what he did. I can't really tell you awesomeness. I mean, the Bermuda Triangle defense with the Bills, but Fred Smirless, number 10, for that moment.
I like that a lot.
That's cool. Yeah,
I really do. That's a cool personal memory. I'm actually really glad you brought that up. Yeah, that's. I wish I had more of those. I'm always afraid to not that. Like, you always hope to meet your heroes and stuff, and he may or may not have been a hero to you, but the fact that, he took the time out and just like, hey, let's chat and this and that. Like, that's the coolest thing. That's the coolest thing in my opinion. So very good. Very good. All right. We're on to number 9s. My number 9, I'm going to go J.J. Watt. Okay. I'm going to go J.J. Watt. This was a little audible that I made before this too. All right. Houston Texans player. Obviously, what I like about J.J. Watt is his just attitude and demeanor towards the game of professional football, right? He had this wonderful speech a couple of weeks ago after week 16. And, just the attitudes of players who, they get paid to play a children's game. And he's like, you need to take it seriously because people invest their time and stuff in that. And he's a very fun player to watch. He's older, obviously, but he can still perform. And I still think, he's had a lot of good moments. I remember people wouldn't stop talking about J.J. Watt during the Bills Houston Texans playoff game. And it made me laugh how mad people were getting about it. But it was kind of funny because he didn't do any, like Deshaun Watson would score a touchdown. They're like, J.J. Watt's on the sidelines. Like, yeah, yeah. But what I love about J.J. Watt the most, and Andrew brought up a great story. I didn't get to experience this personally, but when I went to Indianapolis in 2019 to go watch the Colts play the Texans, J.J. Watt would go around the entire stadium. And keep in mind, this is in Indianapolis, all right? Not a whole lot of Houston Texans fans in Indianapolis.
Oh, no.
He would go and he played catch with every single kid around the stadium.
Wow.
Every Colts jersey. He does that at every stadium he goes to. It doesn't matter. He goes and plays catch with the kids. And that, to me, from being a really good player, a really, really good player, to being a good person as well, that's good in my book. So that's why I'm going to give J.J. Watt the nod at number 9. Because he didn't have to. I've seen players walk past kids and break their hearts because they had the wrong team's jersey on. Yeah. A kid on a Giants jersey a couple years ago asked a Dallas Cowboys player for an autograph, and he goes, "You got the wrong jersey on, kid," and he walked right past him. And it was like kind of messed up, like it's a kid, man. Yeah. And it was just, that was just, I can't stand that. I can't stand that. But J.J. Watt is like, J.J. Watt's good people for me. So, cool. That is that's my number 9 for more reasons than just one. So, Jake, who is your number 9?
So for my number 9, I went with Darrell Rivas.
Ooh,
coining the term Rivas Island. I will never forget, like, watching him play, like when he was really at the top of his game, and like, who pays attention to cornerbacks? I mean, outside of like Deion Sanders, like, I feel like a lot of people didn't care, even if there's guys who are really flashy at that position. But I remember during his stretch, people really cared. Like, people just they wanted to watch him just shut guys down.
Yeah.
And I think that's just such a cool thing for me. And I think a few guys on my list I really picked because I was like, at their position, they really just were someone who could take over a game and change the entire game, a team game with 11 guys on your side of the ball, and just make it a one-on-one matchup and make it something that people have to watch.
Right.
And watching Darrell Rivas play cornerback is must-watch.
Didn't he have his way with Randy Moss a couple times?
Yeah, like shut down Randy.
Never.
No,
Never.
it happened.
It happened. Everybody, really.
Never.
Other than maybe Stevie Johnson had his number.
Right.
But
See,
I thought that was cool.
I like that. When I came into the league, like being a super fan, Rivas Island was the butt of a lot of jokes. But then I go and watch some of his older stuff when he was younger. And yeah, I mean, that happens to a lot of cornerbacks. Like Deion Sanders wasn't always, he had his time. And then he kind of fell out. Richard Sherman, we're witnessing Richard Sherman on the back end of his career where he's not playing shutdown like he used to be. And Patrick Peterson is another one. And Darrell Rivas is another one who went through it. But, Rivas was great. Rivas Island was a legit thing. And he went toe-to-toe and gave the Jets a lot of hope on defense that they probably haven't seen in they honestly haven't seen in a long time. So I love that at number 9. Andrew, who is your number 9?
This is going to be another shocker, I think, for you guys. Number 9 is Andre Reid. I hate the Bills with every fiber in my body.
Andrew.
Okay. It's a long story, Jacob. Matt could probably explain it to you. It has to deal with eating cereal, staring at a poster of Bruce Smith on a motorcycle wearing tank top. Okay.
Okay.
The 90s, it's very odd.
I like that. I like that. That's such a weird thing.
Yes, I come from a family of Bills fans. I'm the oddball.
Okay.
But coming from a family of Bills fan and growing up when I did, the 90s Bills were always there. 4 straight Super Bowls. Okay. I got to watch the Bills win, even though I didn't want to because they stomped over my Dolphins. But Andre Reid was the guy that I always liked because Andre Reid was he did the dirty work that not a lot of people give him credit. He went over the middle in a time where that was no man's land. You did not go over the middle unless you wanted to just get demolished.
Yeah, they didn't call penalties on that stuff.
Yeah. And the other thing Andre Reid did, this is why you got to be good to your fans, players, is every year we went to training camp. I had to get dragged to training camp for Buffalo Bills. Out of those big Bills players, Andre Reid was the only one that actually signed autographs. And he made sure kids had the autographs. And, he joked with us and said, hey, are you guys going to be paying my fine? If I don't get in there, I'm going to get fined. And he joked with us. But I watched him make sure he signed every kid's autograph.
Yeah.
Just so they have it.
That's
and he
really
joked
awesome.
with us. And did he take the time to talk to each one of us? No, but he didn't have that much time because of what he was. But he made sure we had something and a memory by it. So
yeah, I like that.
Favorite Bill from the 90s.
I've never heard a bad story about Andre Reid. I've heard bad stories about some of the other players of that great 90s team, and I won't relay their names. I'm sure I can leave that up to the imagination for some, but I have never, ever once heard a bad story about Andre Reid being rude to his fans. And he was a great player. He was a fantastic player. So that's perfect. That's perfect at number 9. Number 8. We're on to number 8. All right, this one was before my time. Andrew's going to be a little moist during this, all right?
The moist meter's going up.
But he might know he might not he might not be too surprised at who I'm picking, though, all right? As I've gotten, I've always been aware of this gentleman, but as I've gotten older and a bigger fan of the NFL, I go and watch. I like watching old games. I love watching old footage. And my number 8 is Mr. Johnny Unitas. All right, a guy who I wish I would have lived to gotten to watch play. What's the Simpsons joke? That's a haircut you can set your watch to, or something like that. I think that. Yeah, I think that's the joke. He was making fun of Joe Namath, and that was the one. Unitas was he was a trendsetter. I watch him play in the 60s and into the early 70s, and I'm like, man, this guy would have fit in very, very well with our current era. Like, I try to imagine that, like Johnny Unitas being sucked out of time in his prime and come to our era. And I think he would have been fantastic. Passing wasn't super prominent back then. It was getting to that point. It was definitely, becoming a bigger part of the game because of rules and all that stuff. But Johnny U was one of the premier quarterbacks of that era. And, I watched, there's not a whole lot of footage of it, but I still sit back and I enjoy the 58 NFL championship game with them and the Giants, and Johnny used the quarterback, and, he had his time with, he made 2 Super Bowl appearances with the Colts, and was in a bunch of other tremendous games, but he was definitely a game changer back in the day, and somebody who I would have liked. Unfortunately, he's not proud. Well, he's passed away now, sadly, but he hated the idea of the Indianapolis Colts. He was always through and through for Baltimore. So yeah, that's my number 8, Mr. Johnny Unitas. Jake.
My number 8 was someone who I actually got to see live, which is a thing that is kind of important to me too with some people on the list, and some that got left off it, unfortunately. Ladainian Tomlinson. Watching him just like on TV, I mean, football, a lot of people will tell you, like you'll hear, oh, well, it's a game that people love it because it's almost better to watch on TV rather than a lot of sports are like you enjoy them a little bit better live. But I think watching LT, he was like one of those rock bands that they were just as good live as they were on cassette or on CD or whatever,
right?
What have you. And that dude was just literally a lightning bolt, no pun intended, because he was a Charger for most of his career. But it was just so much fun to watch him make people look silly and just scoring at will, whether the Chargers were good or bad. And usually they were only bad if their team was hurt. They had the pieces. I feel bad for Phillip Rivers still, but but he still might have his chance with you over there in Indy. But
we'll see.
But yeah,
I hope so.
Yeah, the LT, man, I loved watching him just make people look so silly. He was so fast, and in a time where kind of towards the middle and end of his career, I feel like we were starting to really become more of a quarterback league, but he was still making it hey, running backs are still important.
Yeah.
He was one of the last, to me, he's one of the old guard, one of the last guys that made you think running backs were important.
I like that point. Very good. Yeah, that's a fun one. And I'm not gonna, he's on my list too. So I'll go further in that one. Andrew, you're number 8.
My number 8 is Eddie George.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really follow Eddie George in college, but can't even put my finger on it. There was just something about him. He was just this big, giant running back at 6'2", 6'3", and he would just run over people. He was weird because he took ballet lessons to help with his footwork as a child, and just the story behind him. And I just remember watching him run with those Tennessee Titans teams. I'm like, wow, this guy's. There's always something about Eddie George. He's probably my first non-Dolphin jersey I ever bought was an Eddie George jersey. That's how much I just loved watching Eddie George run. Quick feet, Heisman Trophy winner, could bowl you over. I wouldn't put him up there, but Earl Campbell type runner, and I think that's what made me enjoy him so much was I got to kind of see an Earl Campbell runner without being Earl Campbell.
Right. Yeah, I liked Eddie George. He was a big deal during, the late 90s when they became the Tennessee Titans. He was a huge part of that transition, a solid run game, and definitely a big part of why they reached the Super Bowl in 99. So I like that one a lot. We actually got to auction off one of our listeners auctioned us or gave us a jersey to auction off for our podcast precinct fundraiser last year. And I was like, "Ooh, I want to keep this, but I got to be honorable." Jeff Colossus. I'm not sure if that's his actual last name. It is a sweet last name if it is, but Jeff did donate one of those to us. It was really, really neat.
Eddie George was on my honorable mention list too.
Oh, was he?
He was on my honorable mentions. I really liked watching him just pound dudes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He had his way.
Which is a weird sentence to say out loud, but he really did.
Yeah, that's true.
I said what I said.
This is the way. My number 7 is actually your number 8. This is where I put Ladainian Tomlinson.
The boy.
Ladainian Tomlinson is that dude. Was that dude. He was part. Okay, so what used to happen every school year? Well, actually, this is the first year I got to do this, but there was a stretch of time where my parents would be like, "Okay, we'll buy you 2 jerseys per year. 2 jerseys, and that's kind of like your big like school clothes kind of thing. And my first one was Peyton Manning and Ladainian Tomlinson. The jersey was really cool. All right, the jersey was really cool first and foremost, and secondly, Ladainian Tomlinson was electric. He was so much fun. I mean, you said a lot of great things about him, about what he brought to the run game in a quarterback favored league. Way ahead of his time. I think he had like a single season rushing touchdown record or something like that. Yeah. He does.
Yeah.
Something disgusting like that. But he was ferocious, and you are right. It is a shame that him, Rivers, and Gates never got to win the big one. Like that's probably one of my favorite triple threats in like offensive
and
triple
Vincent
threats.
Jackson, I would put
Vincent
him in
Jackson
there
too. Yeah.
I loved when those 4 guys were.
That's a great one. You know, that's one. If I was just doing those 3, probably one of my favorite triple, 3-headed monster attacks that the NFL has ever seen, and it's just a shame that it wasn't to be. So
that's a top 10 list waiting to happen right there.
Oh, for sure.
Triple threat.
Oh, for sure. I'm sure that'll happen this offseason. I'm sure. But yeah, that is my number 7. Jacob, what's your number 7?
So for number 7, I'm going to stick with offense this time, and one I would assume this I don't think will be on anybody's list. Unfortunately, we already kind of clanged heads on the LT, but my favorite wide receiver of all time, Jordy Nelson.
Oh, okay. I like that.
So growing up a Bills fan in the time that I did, teams were pretty stinky. So I had to find a team that I like to watch and kind of root for in silence. And I always was a big Packers fan on the side. And boy, and I know like the whole back shoulder fade thing, like, yeah, other guys did that. I'm sure you could like pick through film and find guys in the 60s and 70s that did that. But that was a big deal when Rodgers and Nelson kind of started doing that. And to me, that was like the coolest thing. Every backyard football game I played, I was calling that route from that point on, because I was the only kid with the stronger arm that could like really pull that off. And I like loved that I could do that on people after I saw Rodgers do that.
Yeah.
And man, what like watching Jordy Nelson, like just kind of like he posterized people in his own way. He wasn't Randy Moss where he was going to jump over your head and snag it. He wasn't just going to speed by you like Ocho Cinco or anything like that. But that dude, it didn't matter if he was covered by 3 guys, 2 guys, whatever. If you put the ball somewhere and the defender had his back turned, Jordy Nelson was going to go get it.
Yeah.
And I always just really appreciated that about like his hands and his like awareness. I loved watching Jordy Nelson play football, and I'm sad that time is over now, but it was pretty cool.
It was cool. When I started watching, like when I got into fantasy football, and I started really getting into football serious, I was like, oh, cool. Jordy Nelson, he's him and Aaron Rodgers can't stop.
Just going to air it out. He's going to
But I picked him up, and that's when he started to get hurt. And then he got traded then he went to the Raiders, I think, for a little while. And now he's retired. But definitely was not expecting that one. I'm glad you brought that one up. That's the kind of stuff I'm looking for here. Some of those little hidden gems that a lot of other people wouldn't say. Andrew, your number 7, please.
Okay, I know we mentioned prime time, and when people mention prime time, I cringe. I understand, I respect them, but in those late 80s, 90s, there was another cornerback that got no respect the way that prime time did, and that is my man Rod Woodson. From the moment I saw Rod Woodson just lay hit after hit, defend passes, do another dirty work type guy, just get down in there. Wasn't flashy like prime time, wasn't going to high step, ran in there, did his job, shut down people, played 3 different positions, corner, free safety. I think he even played strong safety at one point. Just, I think the only other defensive back I could even compare him to is Ronnie Lott, and I just loved Rod Woodson. So when everybody was talking about primetime didn't do the dirty tackles. My man Rod Woodson did the dirty tackles, and that's why I always loved Rod Woodson over primetime, and that's why he's my number 7 favorite player of all time.
Okay,
the dude was an animal.
Yeah, he might get. I know. Well, this will come out after, but we're doing our fantasy draft episode. Doing a Facebook Live recording. You can watch. Go back to our Facebook page and watch it, but I'm sure he's going to be picked up in that draft as well. All right, we're going on to number 6. And this is going to be, it's another Indianapolis Colt, a guy, very, very talented wide receiver from back in the day. I certainly miss him. He was very quiet. I don't remember hearing a lot of noise about my number 6 here. I'm talking about Marvin Harrison. Never heard a bad thing about him until after he retired and he pointed a baseball bat at somebody or threatened somebody with a baseball bat. But when he played, he was on. He was definitely like on the ball and very, very good route runner and like legit threat and a big part of Peyton Manning's success. You know, when you come into the NFL and you have a guy the caliber of Marvin Harrison, it certainly helps. Great hands, like fantastic hands, catching the ball in all sorts of different scenarios. But he often gets overshadowed by a lot of receivers from his generation. Your T.O.s, your Chad Johnson sometimes. Randy Moss, obviously, and there's a whole host of others. You know, obviously these guys are, you know, a little bit more louder, and there's nothing wrong with that. But Harrison showed up, did his job, and you know, literally never heard a peep out of him, never heard anything bad. Very grateful for him, and he was like, to me, I'm not going to say the last one, but you know, thinking back, having a true wide receiver one, where I don't think the Colts have that now. I think while T.Y. Hilton is wide receiver one, it's the whole offense is pretty much spread out. Where back then, you know, Peyton, while Reggie Wayne was developing still, Peyton had Harrison, and you knew he was going to go to him, and there was nothing you could do to stop it. So that is my number 6 is Mr. Marvin Harrison.
I agree. He was like a really slept on receiver at that time, especially just because of all the other talent that was going around. I think you explained that perfectly, honestly.
Yeah.
I've always really respected Marvin Harrison. That's kind of a bummer that he didn't get the love because, you know, T.O. couldn't stop talking.
He got a gold jacket and a ring. So,
hey, that's where it's at, you know?
So, yeah.
All right. So my number 6, I did go a little bit, I changed my list because Andrew bullied me and told me that I need to pick older guys. That's what he said. He said, you need to start loving on those older men. So I actually, for number 6, I'm going with Warren Sapp. Warren Sapp was one of my favorite players when I first started really watching football when I was a little younger. I remember that Super Bowl when he was with the Bucs with the boy John Gruden there. Warren Sapp just like dominated the middle. Just an absolute animal. He played for a few teams. He played for the Raiders. I have his jersey with the Raiders. I found that jersey. It was hanging in a tree at there's this place like when you're driving from way out from where I live. I don't know exactly where it is. It's like almost like past Akron. And this guy used to just sell like older jerseys like in his front. He had like an everyday yard sale. And I would never stop. Like as a kid, I would like ask to stop, but my parents wouldn't. But then like when I got older, I had my own car. I was like driving up to the throughway and heading to the mall. And I finally was like, you know what? I'm going to stop. I'm a grown adult. If I want to spend my money on a tree jersey, damn it, I will. So me and my friend Josh, we stopped there. And this guy just had like a million jerseys. He had some hanging out of trees, had some sitting on the table. And I just like could not take my eyes off this Warren Sapp jersey. I was like, I want that so bad. And I got it. And I didn't get to see Warren Sapp a lot during his prime. A lot of the things I've seen from him are like going back and watching old footage of old games and highlight videos and stuff like that. But I mean, we talk about Aaron Donald now, maybe being like one of the best interior defensive linemen of all time. I think Warren Sapp had a lot I bet if you asked Aaron Donald where he gets a lot of his play style from, I bet he would say Warren Sapp. That's who Aaron Donald reminds me of a lot. He's a little faster, obviously, but Sapp was sacking quarterbacks from the inside long ago. The people act like Aaron Donald invented that, but Warren Sapp was the man back in the day.
Oh, he was great. He was great. Big foundation of that Super Bowl team, too. Very big foundation of that. Something that I know Tony, I think that was, I think, did Tony Dungy draft him?
Probably.
Yes.
He did. He did. So,
that was him and Derek
pretty much
in that draft.
Yeah, pretty much Gruden won with
inherited Tony Dungy's team. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. I'm grateful for it.
And knew all the Raiders plays. So, I mean, he just got it handed to him.
Yeah.
You love to see it.
He did. Yeah. No doubt. Andrew, your number 6, please.
My number 6 was easy. At this point, it started getting really easy for me. Number 6 is Barry Sanders. The greatest running back I've ever seen with my own eyes. Thanksgiving wouldn't be Thanksgiving today is not what Thanksgiving was when I was a kid, because we do not have Barry Sanders anymore. Everybody complains about the Lions. The Lions were not that great of a team back then, but nobody complained about it because you got to see Barry Sanders. And you knew, and this was before your Sunday NFL tickets and everything else, and you got to see Barry Sanders live. And you knew when you got to see Barry Sanders live, it was going to be something amazing. It may not happen on every play, but you knew it was going to be like 2 yard, 1 yard, -3 yards. Oh my goodness, the guy just took off for 75 yards down the field, turned somebody around 10 times, and juked out 25 people on the way to do it. But you knew you were going to see that, and when you saw it, it just made that game so much better. And that's why Barry Sanders is number 6.
I think that's a really profound thing that you just said too about like Thanksgiving games in particular. Like they're just not what they, and that is like,
if you knew Sanders was playing, you were going to watch it.
Yeah, 100%. And it made the Lions relevant, even though they almost never are. So like, I think that like really like spoke to me there when you said that. Like that was pretty cool.
Yeah, he's not wrong, and I'm actually glad you said that where it's at, because I have him at 5 as well. Like no lie. As a young, very impressionable kid, when it came, like I was still fine. Like I was aware of football. My dad had football on. You get mad when the Bills would lose. Like I knew that, but watching football when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, Barry Sanders was the first mainstream guy for me. All right, big time guy who was still like very much in his prime in when I started loosely watching and starting to formulate an idea what the game was in like 95, 96, 97. Barry Sanders was that mainstream guy. He was hard-nosed, and it's insane to think that he put up the numbers that he did in such a very, very short lifespan. Like as far, not like that he's dead, but but in a career is what I'm was what I mean. So yeah, he was electric, and even still, like it wasn't quite the quarterback league that we described when we were talking about Ladainian Tomlinson, but this man could not be stopped. I mean, he legit put the team on his back. Didn't they make an NFC championship in the 90s too? I think
yes.
92? No,
91.
Was 91.
91 against the Redskins.
Against who?
We almost had a Thurman.
Oh, against
Thurman, Barry Sanders Super Bowl. And the funny thing is, there's a story about Barry Sanders, I'll just say it, is he was Thurman Thomas' backup at Oklahoma State, and Barry Switzer, the head coach of Oklahoma, literally told his players, do not hit Thurman Thomas so hard that he gets injured, because you don't want none of that number 21. And that was Barry's number. So he literally was like, do not hurt Thurman Thomas in an age where you're probably like, yeah, nail him, kill him, do whatever you got to do that guy. Because they were like, no, play Thurman Thomas. We want to play Thurman Thomas. We don't want to play Barry Sanders.
I did not know this story. That's incredibly cool.
That's really cool.
I have his jersey over here. It's a Mitchell and Ness jersey. It's really, it's like a, I don't even know if it's a real, it might be just some kind of like mix up kind of, but it's like black. It almost looks like the Carolina Panthers one. It's like black, but it has blue stripes on it. But I knew when I started collecting jerseys that I had to have a Barry Sanders one. So, Jacob, you're number 5.
Cinco. I'm going to go with Ryan Fitzpatrick. One of my all-time favorite. I've always been, it was really hard for me to not just list 10 quarterbacks. I'm such a quarterback guy.
I am too.
That's like my guilty thing is like, that's like a lot of people's thing. It's hard not to. I mean, let's be real. It's quarterbacks are the thing. Like it's like Jedis and Star Wars. It's like, that's what you're paying attention to. All the other stuff is great. All the love stories and the droids and the actual hunters, the actual wars and the bounty hunters. There's people who are like, oh, I'm a Boba Fett guy. It's like, dude, shut up. Like, give me Anakin Skywalker. He's going to murder you. You couldn't even handle Mace Windu. Get that out of here. So I tried really hard not to just be a little basic bitch and pick all quarterbacks, but I could not say that Ryan Fitzpatrick is one of my favorite players. I defended that dude to the moon. If you go back through my Facebook memories, as I do every morning on the toilet, there's a lot of statuses in there about me just saying, stop talking trash. Leave Ryan Fitzpatrick alone.
Leave him alone.
We scored 28 points a game and lose because our defense couldn't stop a freaking wet paper bag. Like, just they're garbage. And everyone was just like, they shit all over him. But my favorite thing about Fitzpatrick is, like, he doesn't have a super strong arm. He's not super accurate. He's not a prolific runner of the football.
Yeah.
The dude is just like,
But
he's just a gamer.
He does it anyways.
He is an absolute gamer. Even to this day, he's had a super long career somehow. And I don't know. There's just something about the way his moxie and his charisma. Like, I just love watching Ryan Fitzpatrick. And the dude, how many times has he thrown like 6 touchdown passes in a game? Look at all these other awesome quarterbacks. Like, has Matt Stafford ever thrown 6 touchdowns in a game?
I don't know.
Matt Ryan ever thrown 6 touchdown passes in a game? Like, these guys are all number 1 picks and guys that were like, oh, are they in the Hall of Fame? Are they not in the Hall of Fame? Meanwhile, Ryan Fitzpatrick's out here out-dueling them half the time.
Right.
At least statistically. He might not win the game, but the dude's going to put up numbers, and I loved that.
No, I appreciate that because I Fitzpatrick was almost my number 10. He's honorable mention, and you made me feel bad for putting Jay Cutler in there at number 10. So
Jay Cutler, I thought he was going to be your number 1.
He was close. he's starting to wane on me a little bit. Like, he's not around anymore.
Right,
he divorced his wife, and everything's quiet now. I can't watch him on TV. So, Andrew, you're number 5.
My number 5 is another Pittsburgh Steeler, and that's Kevin Green. Kevin Green was cool, just awesome, cool looking. Once again, I'm an 80s, 90 kid. What's cooler than a crazy intense guy with blonde hair? I mean, come on, I grew up loving Hulk Hogan, so why would I not love Kevin Green? Guy that just goes out there. Was he the best cover guy? No, but did he just destroy quarterbacks? Yes. And that's what I loved about him. And he just destroyed everybody, whether he was on the 49ers, the Panthers, the Steelers. Didn't really watch him too much with the Rams, but just destroy people constantly. R.I.P. Kevin Green. I mean, he's probably, if he was playing in today's game, he would be making $25 million a year. That's how great of a pass rusher he was.
Right.
This is an age, we live in an age now where you have a pass rushing specialist, where he was a pass rushing specialist before there was pass rushing specialists. So Kevin Green is my number 5.
I love it. That's a solid one. Was not expecting that one.
Yeah,
I should have with Andrew. He loves to pull some spectacular, like, just names that aren't going to be on a lot of other people's top 10. So that's awesome. Going on to number 4. This is going to be my last non-quarterback on the list. I'm going to go Marshall Falk. All right.
Hey.
I'm going to go Marshall Falk. Man, the greatest show on turf. He's a former Colt, even though I don't really remember his time with the Colts. It was only 1 season. It was very brief. They parted ways with him. He deserved a big contract, and they parted ways with him to make way for Edgerrin James. But he went over the Rams, and, I mean, in the 99 season, and it was instantly a huge part of what that team was doing with Kurt Warner, Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce. Like, it all balanced itself out. But Marshall Falk was the key point of that, the key thing. If that run game isn't going, the pass game isn't going either. And he was one of the earlier pass catching running backs that I remember.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Which was pretty significant. I still watch his film all back in the day. And Madden 03, the one that he's on the cover, is my favorite Madden, one of my favorite Maddens of all time. I just love that no specific reason, but I just love the old play style from back then.
Yeah.
And it just fit well. So, Marshall Falk, very electric player, very exciting. I'm really mad. Well, it was between him or a Peyton jersey. The last time I went to Indianapolis, they were selling the Falk Colts jersey, which was surprising because, again, only one time, and he never even played at Lucas Oil, but they were selling it. But if I do go back and it's on sale, I'll.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't walk away with one of those because you can get a Peyton jersey forever.
I know, but it was a silver 100th anniversary one. So, yeah.
Okay.
All
right.
What's that, Andrew?
I would have grabbed that. It's
Grabbed
Marshall
what?
Falk.
The Falk.
You just hate quarterbacks. That's all.
You're
not a quarterback guy. You're not. You don't hate him, but you're just not a quarterback guy.
Andrew, you're such a necessity to this.
Yes, I love him.
Yeah.
I love him so much.
He's going to keep us in line.
Oh.
Stop talking about quarterbacks.
Yeah.
We're talking about Kevin Green over here. All right.
We're gonna be talking about kick returners. No. next. When
Dante Hall was on my honorable mention. He was on my honorable mention.
I respect that name.
The joystick.
Yeah, man.
Jacob, you're number 4.
Number 4, I'm going to go with Khalil Mack. The first time, and I watch the draft obviously every year, and but I was kind of at a time where I wasn't really watching college football very much anymore, so it kind of took me by surprise when I'm like going through all of these, the potential draft stuff, and I'm like, there's a guy from UB who is going to be taken in the top 10 of the draft. I was like, that is insane. I can't believe. I was like, I have to see what's going on with this kid. So I'm like watching film on this guy, and I'm like, oh my Lord, this dude's crazy. And at that point, we're already kind of into like where pass rushers are starting to get paid more. They're starting to become more and more important because we're such a pass heavy league now. But like, that's when he was kind of the premier pass rusher that I picked for my list, because he really made me appreciate like how important it is to have someone who can just get back there and blow shit up.
Right.
Like he forces so many fumbles and just causes quarterbacks to hurry so often, and just really made me want to go back and watch more like prolific pass rushers from the past. So I'm like, man, when you watch a lot of old defensive style stuff from, the early 2000s and the 90s, it's a lot of run stopping. And to me, he really kind of opened my eyes to like, wow, like this is a very important part of this game.
He would have fit in older eras too.
He can do anything.
Yeah.
He's just a freak of nature.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. He had a very quiet year this year. But I think he was a value when the Raiders moved into the Bears. I was like, really? But he improved the Bears. Like he made the Bears like a credible.
I mean, he's gotten Mitchell Trubisky to the playoffs twice.
But yeah,
so
you're not kidding. You're not kidding.
Yeah,
very good. Andrew, you're number 4.
Number 4. Yeah, see, I'm not a quarterback hater, but Jacob talked about Warren Sapp being the man in the middle. Well, I'm gonna go with the guy that was in the middle too, and that's John Randall. He's definitely top 5 and top NFL sound bites of all time. He was just the little engine that could when it came to defensive players. If the guy weighed 285, it was probably pushing it. He was like maybe 6'1", 6'2", same as Aaron Donald. Whenever somebody talks about Aaron Donald, I always tell them, go look at John Randall, because John Randall was Aaron Donald before there was Aaron Donald. John Randall needed to be handled, and he needed to be blocked and double teamed every single play, because he could play anywhere. Defensive tackle, defensive end. He lined up everywhere, and he dominated and destroyed. And I still believe he is the all-time sack leader for defensive tackles.
Yep.
But he was just a great soundbite, crazy eye black all over the face. Everything about him was just so intense and great. I love.
He was like an intimidating figure, and I had him on my honorable mentions as well, just because like a lot of the stuff I saw about him, I like picking people who just are really like jump out at you, and like that dude just jumps out at you. And a lot of like when they talk about offensive linemen, they're like, who was your least favorite person to block? They're like, John Randall. He's a psycho. He's an absolute psychopath.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. That's a great one. That's great. Another one who's going to get picked up in that fantasy draft game, most certainly. All right, we're going to top 3s, everybody. My number 3 for the season, my favorite non-Colt player of all time this season. Quickly jumping up to one of my favorites. I'm going with Mr. Phillip Rivers as my number 3 favorite NFL player of all time, a guy who people love to not love Phillip Rivers. Like there's people who appreciate him and what he brings to the table, but there's a lot of people that are just like, oh, he choked again. Oh, interception. I see. Maybe it's just me. I really gravitate towards players that everybody hates. Finds a reason to hate. Maybe that's why Jay Cutler's on my top 10. Honestly, that might be the case. Yeah, I'm gonna go Phillip Rivers here. One of the cleanest trash talkers I've ever heard in my life. He doesn't swear, which I think is incredible. and he's a guy who's played with a lot of heart too. All right, my first memory of Philip Rivers was hearing about him playing with a torn MCL in the AFC in I think was it the divisional round? I think it might have been the divisional round against the Patriots.
Championship game.
Oh, was the AFC champ? That's right.
Was that the only one he ever went to?
I think it might have been.
I think that's why he played in it, because he was like, that was the only time,
Yeah.
like the first time, and now the only time he's made it there so far.
Yeah. No, for sure. It
Was injured too.
What's
I
that?
remember that because Tomlinson just sat on the sidelines with his helmet on and the visor, and here's Philip Rivers playing with that torn MCL.
Yeah, he went out there with the heart of a champion, and he gets overshadowed obviously by Drew Brees a lot. Because he was Drew Brees' successor. He gets overshadowed by Big Ben and Eli Manning quite a bit. But, everyone's like, oh, he can't win the big one. I'm like, well, winning is a team thing. And while I'm not going to squarely, but everybody has their faults. It is what it is. But I see a lot from Philip Rivers. I see a very smart and passionate and energetic quarterback who just loves the game of football. Like, he's like having another coach out there on the field. And I compared to him, watching him play this year in a Colts jersey. I was just watching how he would go about, how he'd operate. First year on this team, and just controls the offense. He had all the cerebral of Peyton Manning, just the way to just read defenses and organize his offense. And he had he was in better physical condition than Peyton Manning was at 39 years old. I was grateful for him. I was excited when he got signed. His career is undoubtedly one of my, favorites to have followed. I have his Chargers jersey here. I got his Colts jersey. I just got a Chargers Philip Rivers Funko Pop. I have a Philip Rivers candle. All right. I'm a little obsessed with Philip Rivers. I think he's a great player, and he's one player where I'm not quite ready for him to kind of move on. But he is my number 3 player. Very grateful for Mr. Philip Rivers.
He's a cool dude, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always loved Rivers too.
I go to church with him.
I don't even go to church, but I would be like,
nine of his
kids.
Yeah,
whatever. Pack the van.
Let's go pray, man. Come on. Daggum
it. Yeah, cool dude, man.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say for my number 3, also a quarterback. One of my all-time favorite quarterbacks in general, Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
Just the way, like, as someone who, like, I've played a lot of quarterback and stuff, so to me, watching him is just like, whoa, that guy can do literally whatever he wants. Yeah. And there's a lot of great quarterbacks, but it's just the way he plays with, like, the confidence he plays with, just the way he throws the ball, different arm angles. You can throw it over top of you. You can rifle it underneath, whatever he's got to do. And it looks like so much easier to him than it does to literally anyone else.
He just smiles.
Smiles. He's just out there having a good time. He's just like, whatever, dude. His arm, he's like not a huge guy, so it like doesn't make sense that he could probably throw the ball the length of the field smooth and easy. The ball always looks so good coming out of his hand. It's always right where it needs to be. Watching Aaron Rodgers play football, it kind of broke my heart watching Drew Brees possibly play his last game.
Yeah.
And because everybody loves Brees. He's just a good dude.
Yeah.
But, like, man, when I have to watch Aaron Rodgers play his last football game, I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
Like, I just love watching the dude throw the ball.
Oh, he's a fun case. He's had an up and down career. I get another, and maybe this year is his year, but maybe possibly another wasted quarterback by the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
You win one with Favre, and as of right now, you've only won one with Aaron Rodgers, and these guys are generational talents, but you are right, and they go out there and they ball out. And Aaron Rodgers, no matter how bad his team is, he's still playing up to a very high level, and his team's still making NFC Championship appearances. So, yep. I love that one. Andrew, number 3.
I did not take a quarterback here once again, so
This is my point. My point.
My number 3, if anybody knows me, they probably already know my top 3, but my number 3 is Randy Moss. I lived through a lovely era of Jerry Rice and some pretty big name wide receivers, but there was always something about Randy Moss. Randy Moss, the way that Jacob was talking about Aaron Rodgers, made everything look effortless. The way that he could just grab the ball out of the air, the way that he ran the go routes, the way that he did anything was just effortless. The Cowboys game, his rookie year, 3 catches, 3 touchdowns. Just he's the most talented wide receiver I've ever seen. I didn't say he was the best, but definitely the most talented wide receiver I've ever seen. And I don't think there will ever be another Randy Moss, because I don't think you could combine that speed with that size, agility, everything that he had. And it showed once he got a good quarterback. That year that he had with Brady, it's just a flash of what we could have seen throughout his whole entire career if he had another good quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
You're 100% right. Yeah, if he, some of the Brad Johnson, Dante Culpepper, there's a long list of guys who are not they're very easily forgotten.
Who did he have with the Raiders? It wasn't still Rich Gannon. It was
Gary Collins.
Was it Palmer?
No. Palmer was not with the Raiders.
Carson Palmer played a year earlier.
No, but not.
Oh, not with him.
Not with Randy Moss, because
that
year with the Raiders was before New England.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right.
Was it Rich Gannon still?
Gary Collins.
Oh no, no. Andrew Walter.
It was Andrew Walters and Kerry Collins.
Holy
and
crap!
A bunch of other.
Yikes.
Good for him.
Yeah, you got paid.
Good, yeah, seriously, good for Randy Moss for being remembered like that. All right, very good. We're going on to number 2. All right, my number 2 is Mr. Peyton Manning. All right,
man, you just keep on surprising me today.
I am a little bit. Peyton Manning. I fell in love with the Indianapolis Colts because of Peyton Manning. I've told the story a bunch of times on the show. I'm not going to repeat it, but I did become a Colts fan when he got drafted. My biggest regret as a Colts fan is that I never, ever got to see Peyton Manning play in person. Never did. There was a long stretch of years where I never went to the Bills games, and that was my parents were obviously not going to take me to Indianapolis to see him. So I never, ever got to see Peyton Manning play live, and it breaks my heart to this day. But again, a very cerebral guy. I cried when the Colts were like, yeah, sorry, we're cutting ties with you. Where you can go after signing a 6-year contract, like a year after signing a 6-year contract, yeah, you can go explore free agency. And, I'm happy that it was cool because when the Colts didn't pan out, when the Colts were bowed out of the playoffs, I'd be like, okay, cool. I can root for the Broncos because of Peyton Manning. But yeah, so much fun, and definitely coming into being a any kind of NFL fan with Peyton, at least with the Colts, with Peyton Manning to start, and then you find yourself now struggling to find a franchise quarterback. It's a little spoiled, certainly a little spoiled, but yeah, I'm very happy to put Peyton Manning at number 2. So,
all right, well, I think you're going to like my number 2, Matt. It's not Peyton Manning, but it is a former Colt.
Ooh.
And this guy really was someone I wanted to be like when I was playing high school football, because we played the same position, and I took a lot of what I did from him. Dallas Clark.
Oh,
I love Dallas Clark. You probably didn't know that about me, but
I did not.
I was number 44 and everything, man. I loved Dallas Clark. Just watching him and Manning, he had all those weapons on the outside, but when push came to shove, he loved throwing to Dallas Clark, and Dallas Clark usually rewarded him. He would go down and just catch stupid balls underneath linebackers. And I remember watching him make just a lot of diving catches, and he didn't look he wasn't like your typical now, flashy tight end who was big and tall and going for jump balls in the corner of the end zone. He was a dirty work guy, to steal a phrase from Andrew. He was laying down important blocks, but he was also diving for catches wherever he needed to be. He was a hard worker, and I really, really loved watching him play.
Yeah. I love that's big surprise there. I love that. Because that's our first tight end on this list too, right?
Might be. Yeah.
I think so.
I didn't have one.
Yeah, I didn't have one either. So very good. That's why I brought you on the show, Jacob.
Yeah.
Full of surprises.
I gotta say, in one of our drafts, I picked Dallas Clark, and 2 people that we know gave me a lot of crap about Dallas Clark.
They did.
Well, let's hit them. Andrew, let's go to their house.
Andrew lives close to one of their houses. I can take care of the other one.
Perfect.
So, number 2, I'm going quarterback.
He finally takes his QB. Brother.
What's that? This was my guy after my number 1 kind of retired. Well, no, When I first saw him,
Ryan Tannehill.
he wasn't the best. He wasn't the best, but he was always. What's that? Never Jay Cutler. But my number 2, I'll just get into it, is Brett Favre. Have you ever seen a player in the NFL have more fun than Brett Favre and just drive a coach?
Yeah.
Drive a coach absolutely insane, like Brett Favre did, with everything that goes on. One of the best sound bites, most fun to watch because you never knew what he was going to do with those underhand flip passes or just little stupid shovel passes for no reason at all. Brett Favre is definitely my second favorite player of all time.
That's a fantastic pick. He was an honorable mention for me as well.
Yeah.
Like Barry Sanders, like Brett Favre was the be all end all. When I was I remember in first grade, I had a kid in my class who had a Brett Favre jersey, and I go watch the TV and just Brett Favre's mic'd up. It's the funniest thing. He's going out there. He's playing really, really good football. One of the not OGs, but for in my sake, one of the OG gunslingers. All right, and he just threw. Leads. He has a lot of interceptions to his credit, unfortunately, but a lot of good touchdowns, a lot of fun memories, with it too. So Andrew, I love that pick at number 2. I think it's very deserving. All right. Number 1. Who could Matt put? Who could
I know?
Yeah.
Who could Matt put at number 1 when Peyton Manning's at number 2
and Jay Cutler's at number 2? Man, this is crazy.
Carrie no. No, my number 1 favorite. Yeah, you do. My number 1 favorite player of all time is Andrew Luck. All right. Wow. All right. He may not have had the longevity that Peyton Manning did, or some of the accolades. But I, to this day, think that if I still to this day think that Andrew was a better quarterback than Peyton Manning.
Wow.
All right. Andrew's giving me a stank eye.
Coming from you,
hear
that's
me out.
Huge.
It's big. I look at what he did coming into a very bad team and what Peyton Manning did coming into a very bad team. When Peyton Manning came into the Colts in 1998, 3-13 season, had a rookie interception record. It took some time. They eventually got better, of course, but that happened. Andrew Luck comes into a 2-win Indianapolis Colts team that might be comparable, if not in worse shape than that 98 team was. And he comes in the following year in 2012 and takes them to 11-5 in the postseason. All right. Andrew Luck had a ton to overcome, and he was exciting to watch too, where you knew what you were getting with Peyton Manning. All right. You knew he was going to be, he's going to organize some cool plays, but he's going to throw the ball and he's going to try and hit Marvin Harrison stuff and do all this crazy stuff, where Andrew Luck, you didn't know. He could take off and scramble for 10 yards if he wanted to.
Which he used to love to do.
He used to love to do. One of the most exciting plays. I have plays of his career. The Kansas City Chiefs comeback in the wild card game, who was it who fumbled? I forgot who it was who fumbled, but he picks it up, scoops it, and dives into the end zone. And Peyton Manning wasn't going to do that. Well, maybe he would have, but that's just the excitement factor to me for Andrew Luck, because he was so unpredictable. You didn't know what you were going to get from him. And now that, unfortunately, he is retired, we will never know what he would have become. So he was, I think, he's right up. I think he's number 2 in Colts passing yards and all that stuff and this and that, and understandably so. But yeah, Andrew Luck is my number 1 from an excitable standpoint, good human. And I really think, and maybe that's just a bold statement, but I really do think that Andrew Luck had the same, if he didn't get hurt, if he didn't get drilled because his crappy general manager couldn't put an offensive line in front of him, and a bunch of other stuff, that I think Andrew Luck, we'd be talking about Andrew Luck as the best Colts quarterback of all time. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Statement.
Yeah. Especially from you.
Yeah. I'm always full of surprises. I had to shake it up. I had to shake it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
Well, for my number 1, and because of the things that have transpired now during this, I'm very glad that I picked the number 1 that I did, because when I started all week long up until today, my number 1 was Brett Favre.
Yeah.
up until today, because I for literally every reason that Andrew already said. So I am so glad that he's my 1A and not my 1 overall. Most of the sports jerseys I wore were this guy's number since the time I was like in middle school and up. The way he played, everything, it really was one of my favorite things, and he was a guy that not a lot of people loved as much as I did. Kurt Warner.
Hey,
huge Kurt Warner fan. I loved, especially, I didn't really know too much about the Greatest Show on Turf until after the fact. Obviously, I was a little young for that.
Yeah.
But I've gone back and watched a lot of that, and it really impressed me. But when he was with the Cardinals and slinging it to Larry Fitzgerald and Anquan Bolden and those guys, like, man, those teams to me were just so fun to watch. And I never thought they were going to like make it to the Super Bowl the way they did. It's unfortunate they didn't win, but I mean, Kurt Warner's he's a very underrated quarterback considering the things he's done.
Well, he did a 99.
Yeah,
99.
Yeah, no, but I just think he didn't win.
Right.
The Steelers one, he lost.
The Arizona one. My apologies.
My
apologies. Yeah, you're right.
So luckily, he did win a Super Bowl,
Yeah.
but I didn't even think they would make it to one, and then they get there, and that was like such an exciting thing for me because I was always like, at that point in his career, talking a lot in school with my other like football fan friends, like, man, I love Kurt Warner, and they're like, who cares about Kurt Warner?
Yeah, nobody.
And I was like, well, you have to now because he's in the big one. But yeah, just like when he was like rocking the 2 gloves and just out there slinging it deep. It seemed like every play he was just chalking it up to somebody, and I just thought he was the coolest dude.
Great dude too.
And he inspired me to wear number 13 for like all my baseball jerseys, everything. Like,
that's cool.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, great dude. I don't know if you knew this, but he was the QB1 when Eli Manning got drafted, and Kurt Warner.
Yep.
Kurt Warner wasn't playing good. He goes, yo, just ride it out with Eli. Put Eli in. Don't put me back in because it'll never work. You'll destroy his confidence. And it was probably one of the most selfless things I've ever heard a player doing. And yeah, Kurt Warner was one of them. So I admire the heck out of Kurt Warner. I really do. I'm glad you put him in there. Andrew, the final number 1 for our first List in 10 episode.
Okay, well, this one's kind of obvious. I'm a Dolphins fan, and this guy also wore number 13. And that's Dan Marino.
Woo!
Dan Marino is just absolutely amazing. As a kid, watching a game where it was very run first, and then you just watch this guy just pretty much a statue in the pocket, just sling it. And the ball came out so fast. It was like watching a fastball pitcher like Nolan Ryan. The ball just came out so fast, and then you would think, "Oh my goodness, he's going to go down." And you knew he couldn't run, but he had some of the quickest feet. I think Dan Marino is very underrated at this thing. If you ever watch how quick his feet is in avoiding the rush, you're going to be like, "Oh my goodness, how does this guy not run fast?" But the way that he would just throw the ball down the field. Another intense guy yelling at people constantly, just what are you doing? Took maybe other than the Marx brothers, non-big name household receivers, and just won games with them time after time. I mean, the duel with Drew Bledsoe in '94.
Yeah.
Coming back from an Achilles injury. And when he came back from that Achilles injury, he couldn't even flex his foot, but yet he still went into the game and still threw like 400 yards and 4 touchdown passes. I don't know how anybody can not love Dan Marino. He is just my absolute all-time favorite player. I have his rookie card in a plaque on the mantle above my fireplace. My wife does not like it, but Dan Marino needs to stay there, and that is where he will stay until the end of the.
I got a starting lineup of him right over here. It's in a Wheaties box. It's like a Wheaties starting lineup crossover thing. It's pretty cool.
That's the one where is he in the warm-up uniform?
No, he's in. Let me see. Hold on. Let me see. No, he's in his regular.
I still have my Dan Marino binder of his football cards.
That's so cool.
This is my only football cards that I have is my Dan Marino football cards as well.
That's so cool.
That is really cool.
I love this thing. But all right. No, that's an excellent pick, guys. Great list, too. This is a hot way to start off List in 10, and this is going to be a lot of fun. Jacob, what do we got on the slate for us next week? because it is your choice.
So for next week, what we're doing for our list in 10 is, drumroll please, coolest jerseys.
Ooh, that is right up my alley. I love me some jerseys.
Me
know.
too.
I have a whole closet.
Yeah, that's
busted
exactly why
full
I picked
of
it, man. As soon as I walk into the cave, what do we see? Just a thing of jerseys. They're everywhere.
There's a lot of them. So very good, everybody. We hope you enjoyed Listen 10. We have a lot more content for you coming up. So so that is that. Make sure you follow along. And yeah, we're very curious as to what your top 10 list is. Make sure you find us on Facebook and let us know. Well, on behalf of Andrew, Jacob, and I, till next time, the 2-point conversation is...
399, hut! 3-3.
Yeah, spot.
Blue 58! Blue 58!
Hey, Anthony.
Yeah, Chris.
What are you recording?
I'm currently recording a Vinyl Divers podcast.
Vinyl
episode.
Divers? What's that?
Vinyl Divers is a podcast that I do where I talk everything music related, from bands that are on vinyl that I've collected, old vinyl that I found and purchased, to bands that I am currently listening to on iTunes and Spotify, because guess what? I can't afford all the vinyl that I want.
But it's a vinyl podcast.
Yes, essentially. It's a music podcast that started off as a vinyl podcast.
Is there diving involved?
There is diving into podcasts and vinyls.
Where can I find Vinyl Divers?
Find Vinyl Divers on the network app, bicdp-radio.com.
Sweet.
Keep diving.